It's Thursday, y'all, and that means it is time for another installment of Gems and Joy. This is an Instagram Live that I'm doing with thought leaders around the world who are dedicated to helping women shine inside and out. They are leaders in well-being, accelerated learning, personal growth. And I've had questions in my own journey, so I wanted to reach out to people who have insight. Today, we're going to be talking about success, but not in the way that we're accustomed to talking about success. We're actually going to ask some questions about what happens when you've been striving for success for so long to reach this point, and you get there, and then you realize that it did not cure all your trauma. It did not solve all your problems. And so to help us figure out this issue and think through this, I am talking to Dr. Rachel, and I already see her tuning in. Hi, Dr. Rachel. We're going to ask her to join in. Wait, I'm having some technical issues today. Okay. So now we're waiting for Dr. Rachel to join in. And while we are waiting, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who she is and what she does. Dr. Rachel is a licensed clinical psychologist. Hi. No, I can't hear you.
Now I can hear you.
Now we hear you. Fantastic. So I'm just giving them a little background on who you are and what you do and how you do it. So I'm going to go ahead and go with this. It's like Dr. Rachel is a licensed clinical psychologist, love alchemist. I just love saying that, and conscious communication expert. She supports people to live aligned with the magic of love to heal and transform their hurts so they can live from their hearts. She helps modern day women with all aspects of emotional and spiritual health, everything from sex and relationships to meditation and mantras. So good morning, Dr. Rachel. How you doing today?
I'm so excited to get to see you live in
I'm so
flesh.
excited to see you. Oh, goodness. Thank you for joining in on this. And I know especially, in our part of the world, because we're in California, there is a lot going on energetically right now with everything. There's been a lot of loss and a lot of trauma that people are working through right now, and a lot of things that people have worked really hard to attain and have certain levels of success, and they've just watched it go up in smoke lately.
Yeah. It's a palpable sense of upset across the community. Yeah.
A lot of pain, definitely. And so I really appreciate you like stepping in today and talking about success in a different way and in a deeper way. And I know that I read your intro, but I want to just take a minute and have you tell us a little bit more about why, out of everything you could have done in the world, out of everything you could do with your life and your energy, what made you decide to dedicate so much of your insight and your energy to things like meditation and personal growth and healing language?
I mean, my first instinct is to say it's a calling. It's always sort of been this clear sense of what I should be doing. And so I think that sense of just like interest and insatiable curiosity for my field has compelled me to sort of achieve what I have so far. But also, I'm on my own path. And, my own experience of transformation and healing and meditation for me has been in many ways the portal to a deepened sense of authentic self.
Oh, wow. Okay, so wait, let's unpack that for a second. So you said meditation has been a portal
Yeah.
for you to kind of like unlock that and get a deeper sense of self. How?
Mm. Because for me, implicitly, it is meditation requires self-exploration and self-observation. And so the more I've been able to slow down and be with myself, be still with myself, the more I've been able to get curious about what the hell is happening inside of me, and make and I think elucidate, patterns, experiences, programming, conditioning, trauma, all of this stuff that was compelling me to operate in my life from a destructive place that I wasn't conscious to until I gave myself the chance to check in a real way with myself.
This is very powerful. So I think it's actually a great like transition into the kind of the ding, ding, ding $1 million question right now, which is, everything we tune into, whether it's in print, on television, digitally, and everything, there's this idea that we have, particularly in the Western world, around success, right? And it's like, it's this not quite well-defined thing, but we just know it's something that you acquire, you hustle, grind, hustle, grind, hustle, grind until you get there. And when you get there, it's supposed to just like make everything magically better. Why do we think success is a cure-all for us?
I think it's influenced by how the culture defines it and what the societal expectations come to be. And it isn't until we begin to check in with ourselves about whether or not that truly resonates, is that contributing to our sense of vitality, or is it depleting us? Is it, constricting or expanding? It isn't until we do that then we can define success based on our own measure of what it looks like for us or what it is. But I think in our culture, productivity is idealized, and capitalism contributes to that, and we're very materially focused, and we think that accrual of things outside of ourselves, some type of objective measure that we can point to that says, look at how worthwhile I am, is how we're deemed worthy, I'd say. Yeah. I think we're set up to believe that.
So, okay. As you're breaking this down, you're reminding me of when we had a conversation about this, which transparency, y'all, we talked to each other before getting on this live. And you said a term that I had never heard before, which was hedonistic adaptation. Okay, like I get the hedonism part. And actually, when I think about hedonism, I'm thinking like bacchanalia, like just kicking back drinks and like being fanned and being fed grapes and like, screwing whatever is moving in front of you, like hedonistic adaptation.
That was a really exciting scene you just painted. Yeah.
Right. It's like just a whole like hedonistic adaptation. This sounds different than what I'm thinking when I hear something that has hedonism in it.
Right.
Like, can you unpack that for us? What does that mean? What does it mean in relation to what we think about success?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think what it means is that we're pleasure-seeking creatures, pleasure-seeking, pain-avoiding. And so on some level, we are always striving for that thing that will give us some felt sense of pleasure. The problem is that inherent in our human nature is no experience is sustained indefinitely. We're constantly, feelings come and go, conditions outside of us are always changing. And so this idea of hedonistic adaptation is that even when we experience some up level, we get that job we hoped we would, we get that extra bonus, that relationship we wanted for so long. Once we get it, we experience a surge of an emotion that is pleasurable. And because we adapt to conditions, we have become habituated, we always return back to our baseline. And so it's problematic if our baseline is still stuck in trauma, or is still unconscious or inauthentic, or doesn't feel inherently good enough, then we're sort of grasping onto these external conditions we think are going to make us feel okay, and they don't. We can't depend on them to in any sustained way, because that's not how it works.
Okay, so if I'm hearing this correctly, like a little bit of what you're saying is that we're constantly in flux because that's life,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so there has to be like a certain, they said, like baseline of skills and understanding that you have about yourself,
Right.
so that even when you get the upsurge, you're still able to like keep working through what's going to inevitably be the leveling off of that upsurge,
Right.
right? So, okay. This is actually like getting me really excited because I've had lots of conversations with a lot of friends. I'm not going to name names, I don't want to put them on the spot, but we've had these conversations about when you've worked for that title, for so long. You worked for that promotion, you've worked for that partnership, you've worked to maybe like actually establish your business as an entrepreneur. And because there were so many like really loud pressing needs in front of you that were screaming, like you had to figure out things with money, you had to figure out how to take care of the kids, you had to figure out like so many things just to stay alive, and you sacrificed a lot of yourself in order to just shut it down so that you could go ahead and get that level of success, you could get that thing. And then all of a sudden, you've like hit this point that you've been working for so long. And all of those like primal needs that were screaming in your head the whole time, they're now quiet,
Right.
because they're not a stressor anymore. And then all of a sudden, whoosh, all these other things start to come forward. For women that are experiencing this type of thing, and it can be very jarring, do you have some advice for how they can start to work through that? Because, I mean, as someone, I can speak from my own experience. It hit me by surprise. I was not expecting it. I didn't even know it was there until I sat down and I got quiet, and it just like slapped me out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, my first instinct is to say that this is a really good thing. That if you're getting to a place where you're able to get out of survival mode enough to tap into some deeper unconscious processes, good. That means you're evolving. And I think the other thing is that it's okay to be unnerved. Like it's okay. I think we need to give ourselves more space to be imperfect, to experience destabilization, especially within the context that you're describing, these driven, powerful women who are doing it all for everybody, having to neglect crucial parts of who they are and what they go through. Like, this is an opportunity to let yourself feel and grieve and whatever, heal. So I think the first thing is like maybe some acceptance, and even, I know it seems sort of paradoxical, but some gratitude for having gotten to this place in yourself where you can be exploratory in this way.
Okay, you said a lot of great stuff. And one thing hit me in particular that I really want to explore deeper, which is the idea that it's actually, it can be good to be unnerved. It can be good to be disrupted.
Yeah.
This sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
We don't even have, I can't really think of much of anywhere in the rhetoric, like in the zeitgeist that we're aware of as a society, where we even think it's good to be unnerved, right? Like we've got people that they take 80 million photos to find the right one to put on the gram. There's like a certain level of perfection that is expected, right? And even with up leveling, as you're getting higher, up that ladder, people expect you to show up in the room even more perfect than you were when you were, beginning.
Right.
So how do like, how do you actually start to like define that for yourself of, oh, okay, I'm going to be disrupted and this is okay to be disrupted when it feels terrifying and it seems like you're probably like driving the bus into a ditch.
Mm, yeah. I mean, I would say, and Jack Kornfield says this, and I think Buddhist Dharma, which I'm influenced by, I'd say make friends with your fear. Get
Mhm.
it's so I think you can feel frightened and not allow it to swallow you. You can feel frightened and not drive the car into the ditch. The fear uh, might require you to notice and nurture it and get clear about its message, and then go from there. But our emotions serve as a compass, and so we can't
Mm.
expect ourselves to it's not healthy for us to avoid anything that we feel. And so that type of terror might actually be an enlivened sense of, holy crap, I'm really doing this thing. I'm owning my power. And I think part of it is being willing to shed other people's expectations and
Mm.
and for yourself know deeply that you can take as many pictures as you want. Maybe that feels good to you and you can do that, and give yourself space to fuck it up. Like that you
Wow.
will. And so get cozy with that, I'd say.
I feel this is very empowering. Like, give yourself space to fuck it up
Yeah.
because you're human and fucking it up is gonna happen, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, it's one of those things. I know that, when I was talking to you earlier, I said, please, like, any advice that you can shed to help us calm the fuck
Right.
down, because it's like we're in this hyper mode, and I feel like a lot of times too, the levels of expectations that we have for ourselves aren't even necessarily the level of expectations of the people closest to us or that we're really influencing share about
Mm,
us, about
mm,
ourselves, right? So
yeah.
the thought that even this fear is a journey, that there's a lesson inside of the fear, and that your emotions are a compass for you.
Mm,
I think that's very jarring to even hear for, a lot of people too, because most of the time what we're hearing now too is that you should just lean into positivity all the time.
mm,
You're never supposed to have any negative emotions, like, or anything like
right.
that. And so if you are having these negative emotions, then it's some sort of mindset issue that you have
Mm,
as a human being.
right.
That feels like a trick.
Well, I think it's an impossibility, and I think it's neglectful. And I love Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, and she's very I think her teachings are powerful, and she's got something. She's able to meld this idea of, I think we have to anticipate that we have a vast internal landscape, and we can't fool
Mm.
ourselves into thinking that we're not going to have natural reactions to things, and we have pleasant feeling tones and unpleasant feeling tones. I think
Right.
the trick is to not make the unpleasant feeling tones more than they are, than just an experience we're having that we can notice and nurture. The problem is when we get lost in a narrative that is limiting, that we make up or
Mm.
we've learned about what it means to feel this way. And then we can get really caught in that. So I think there's something to the idea that mindset is tremendously powerful, and we should be active in being aware of how we're talking to ourselves, what we're saying, and how. But I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Like, I think we can honor that we feel, and we need to get better
Mm.
at knowing how. And that doesn't mean we lose ourselves in absurd thought patterns that are harsh or limiting.
Right. Right. So Okay, you talk a lot personally on your Instagram, which is magical, by the way. Like, oh my goodness, like your Instagram is just all the things. And one of the things that seems to constantly come up, it seems, is this idea of diligence.
Mm,
So for, what we're talking about with this, like this journey into the complex landscape inside of yourself and allowing your emotions to, be a compass, allowing yourself to still stay human even while you are on that hustle, while you are like striving toward that success level and not shutting parts of yourself down so completely.
mm.
What does diligence look like for, for these very driven women? Like, and especially in today's world, which is so oversaturated with stimulation and noise. Like, what does that actually look like for
Mm,
us in today's world?
mm. Yeah, and I thank you. I think this is a good question, a powerful question, beyond good. And I just want to say, it made me think. I love how curious you are about including humanity, our experiences as humans in these pursuits. It's a beautiful melding. Um, I think, you know, diligence could also be considered commitment, uh,
Mm.
persistent persistence, but I think it's sort of like this ruthless, gentle returning home to self. um
Ooh.
and I think what that means is it just requires practice,
Uh-huh.
intention, ritual, prioritization, also renunciation. I think we have to
Mm.
be aware of what we're doing, why, what really matters, what can we let go of. And so it's just a diligent connecting to ourselves as often as we possibly can.
That is beautiful. I love you said ruthless,
Yeah,
but
right.
gentle. Which that to me sounds like you're uncompromising with it. Like you have to decide that this is one of your non-negotiables,
Right.
right? Like like so much of your life begins when you start to figure out your standards for yourself. And if this is like a non-negotiable for you, that you have to do this return to yourself, this remembering of who you are, this embracing of who you are and what you're going through, and knowing that it's going to be messy sometimes, and knowing that it's going to be sublime sometimes, and know it's going to be the whole range of everything that is possible.
Right.
This is just, first of all, this is mind blowing. This is part of the reason why I am curious about it, because I don't know where we hear this in the overarching landscape. Like, I don't see this necessarily being nurtured in pop culture,
Mm,
you know?
yeah. I wonder if part of the reason is, I think, because we're having to shift the paradigm of
Mm,
who we are as a collective and what we
right.
value. And so and I think we're elevating consciousness, and you're a
Mm,
powerful part of this. Your vision is exactly aligned with that, as is mine. And I think
right.
you're right. It has been lacking. But I think I see it, and thank you for what you said about my Instagram. I feel the same for yours, and I love Instagram. I love the community that I've been able to build and connect to, and so I see it out there more and more. But I think, yeah, we need to it needs to become more mainstream. I'd agree. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, so compassion,
Mm,
which I know you've touched on a little bit with that too, but I feel like I'm hearing this coming up as an idea as well, like this diligence, but also this compassion towards yourself. Um, you know, I don't think that that's necessarily a thing that a lot of people know how to just get to automatically.
mm.
So for someone who is struggling toward that, what are some ideas, some steps that you can give toward this is how you start to nurture and develop that compassion for yourself along this journey?
Yeah. One thing I'll say is that it can be hard for people who it's totally foreign to. You know, if you grew up in an environment in which you weren't given that type of space, that compassionate context, you know, this, I would just, so I think I want to start by saying I would encourage people who are interested in being more compassionate with themselves to be patient with themselves through the process. And I'd say it has to start with an awareness of the harsh way in which you're talking to yourself, the harsh way that you're sort of experiencing yourself, and then a willingness to shift that narrative. So some things that can help are like developing a bit of a compassion mantra, something that considers the context. And compassion doesn't mean you don't recognize the truth. Like if we fucked up, it doesn't mean we say, oh, that's okay, like it's fine, you did nothing wrong. You can own the personal responsibility there, and also remind ourselves that we're always just doing the best we can, and that this is an opportunity to learn. And I would encourage people to ask themselves, what do they most need to hear? You know, if they were talking to if they were, you know, needing nurturance from someone they love, what would that sound like? What does it sound like to be validating and compassionate? And if you can't come up with anything in that vein, I would encourage you to talk to yourself like you would a little girl who just messed up and is feeling really down on herself. I think most of us would not berate her.
Right. Right. So good. I mean, this is so good because it's like, okay, just to even think, what is it that, you know, you would want to hear from someone who is supposed to love you?
Wow.
That is at least the way you should be talking to yourself, right? We are still forever these little girls. Like the little girl inside of you is still there, everything that she has experienced. So if you can even look at yourself in that way, think of yourself in that 4-year-old you or that 5-year-old you, and what you would need to hear as that little girl so that you can actually like move through this. That is so powerful. Like that is a whole other way to see yourself in the mirror, you know? And I love too what you said about being aware of the harsh things that you're saying to yourself, first of all. Which I think a lot of times people aren't even aware of that. And they're thinking that that's even their voice, and that's probably not even their actual voice. That's just a thought that they're hearing, something that they got taught about themselves. They keep hearing over and over and over again now, but it's not actually their voice.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, Dr. Rachel, this is so good. This is so good. So, okay, let's talk for a second about like coming from the struggle too, because that's an even more nuanced aspect of this. And there's a lot of women, I mean, we know it now, we've seen these empathic movements, first of all, like Me Too, and now into Action Time's Up, but also just within being a woman, there's so many different layers and facets to what that means. And when you have come from struggle, you've come from people that have really had to not really give a lot of room to their well-being because they had to fight so much just to establish their humanity in the eyes of the people surrounding them. How do you start to define success for yourself in your own image when you have inherited, you know, a lot of this struggle and it's intergenerational, and you even have to unpack that as you start to step into yourself and your own and who you are as a woman?
It's a really profound question. And I think, you know, your attunement even to how deeply layered the experience of our identities, I mean, it's tremendous. And it's actually really good to hear you be able to describe intergenerational trauma, ancestral influences that are, that we're influenced by unconsciously, and that lives in our DNA too.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so, I wish that there was an easy answer. I think in your question you sort of answered it. I think it's about being willing to explore what's contributing to your blockages now. And
Mm.
so if you've been carrying the weight of, you know, the ancestry, the intergenerational stuff, in addition to the trauma that you yourself have experienced as a woman up against all various systems that have been oppressive, that has to be unpacked. Like that's all there is to it. There has to be awareness that you're carrying all of this, and exploration of that, about in what ways it's burdensome. And then, then you heal, then you release, then you find avenues, rituals, processes, places to continue to tell the story, develop a new narrative, and to find pride in your ability to heal the lineage, and to know that, what we've had to bear, we don't quite anymore now. It's the dawn of a new day. And that doesn't mean we don't struggle or suffer. It just means it looks a lot different, and there's still a long way to go. But anyway, I think it's about acknowledging it, unpacking it, and then reconnecting to a sense of empowerment for what's real now.
I love that. And the thing is that it's true. Like there is no simple solution. There is no one size fits all. Like just like we all have different fingerprints, we all have different retinas, we all have different voice signatures. Why would there just be a cookie cutter approach to how we heal? Right? Because that means something different for each one of us. And no one has lived your life and your experience except for you. So if you don't actually sit down and start to unpack it, how is it going to actually get unpacked? Right?
Right.
I love this, Dr. Rachel. This has just been amazing. I thank you again so much for taking time out of your day to sit down and talk to us about this, and talk to us about success in a different way that we just don't really get to hear and talk about. And I know that one of the things that I've been seeing more too, and I love this, is that I'm seeing more women that actually be interested in therapy, in finding people that can help them with this journey, find their teachers, find their guides, like find the people that are going to help them unpack. And you do that work with individuals. So for someone that's interested in following up with you, and they are interested in talking to Dr. Rachel so that they can see if you can help them unpack, how can people go about working with you?
Thank you, Joy. I would say check me out on my Instagram page. I have a link in my bio to book a call with me. People can schedule a call, and we can sort of talk a little bit about what's going on and how I might be able to help, and go from there. And then if you want to check out my website, heydrrachel.com. You could also just DM me on Instagram.
Nice. Okay, so the DMs on Instagram are a legitimate form of correspondence with you. Okay.
That'll work.
Because we have to ask, because not everyone is like, I've talked to some people, they're like, just no.
I might regret saying that, but for now but yeah, you can email me too. But I would say check out my Instagram page, peruse around a little bit, and I am struck by you and your grace and your advocacy and your depth, and I love talking to you every time because I'm so inspired, and thank you for facilitating this conversation.
Well, they said, thank you. I'm inspired by you. And they said, you are one of the reasons why I even want to do this, like why I want to have these conversations, because I'm existing in a time where women like you also exist, and it just inspires me. So, Liz, thank you again, Dr. Rachel, for everything, for sitting down and talking through this with us. And you, I mean, we got so much interaction where people were just lighting up with everything that you were saying. So, thank you for everyone for watching, and watch out for next month. We're going to come back again with another installment of Gems and Joy, and you can keep following the conversation at Hey Dr. Rachel, at Do It in Public with Me, and hashtag Gems X Joy. Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Bye, Dr.
Joy.
Rachel. Have a great day. So appreciative of you. Bye.